Welcome to the Lord Rexworth podcast. I'm Lord Rexworth. Join me from Castle Rexworth as we engage in insightful conversations with a diverse range of guests, including VTubers, content creators, and thought leaders. Delve into the realms of creativity, inspiration, and self-discovery as we explore the stories and perspectives that shape the digital landscape. In this episode of the Lord Rexworth podcast, the roles are reversed, and now it is I who become the guest. As Chloe, our community manager from Oshi Forever, sat down with me to dive into all things VTube, including design inspiration, stream advice, and even taking a sneak peek at a new model that I've got in the works.
Awesome. Well, we can get started. Okay, let's just dive right in. What inspired you to become a VTuber, and also what kind of inspired your persona and design?
I actually recall going through this as part of the first episode of the Lord Rexworth podcast.
I just know you remind me a lot of Lloyd, what am I saying? Lloyd Forger.
Yes, that was actually one of the sources of the character OC design for Lord Rexworth.
Yeah.
Put it to you this way. I actually gave this quote one time, and it's from the late actor Cary Grant.
Mm-hmm.
He once said that I pretended to be someone I wanted to be until I finally became that person, or he became me. Until I did become a VTuber, I will frankly say that I was quite unsatisfied with my life.
Mm-hmm.
I had a decent job, enough money to get by, a fairly good life by any measure, but I was not happy. I did not like the person I was. I was not satisfied with the person that I was. I wanted something else for my life. I wanted something more. In many ways, I just wanted to be someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought of all of the people, real and fictional, that I admired the most in movies, in television, in books, in manga and comic books. All of them had personalities that I liked, qualities that I wanted to emulate. There was one that stood out almost from childhood, and that was James Bond. A very debonair, masterful spy for MI6, always has some sort of funny quip whenever he offs the baddie.
Yeah, it's so true.
And then you have qualities like the confident, stoic leadership of a family with Robert Crawley, the Earl of Grantham, the patriarch of the House of Grantham, in Downton Abbey. You had portrayals by Sir Roger Moore of, the sort of roguish, charming, modern-day Robin Hood as Simon Templar in The Saint, and then as another roguish and charming member of the British establishment and aristocracy as Lord Brett Sinclair in The Persuaders. And then, of course, you have that methodical cunning and almost genius level IQ of Lloyd Forger in Spy Family. You may notice a common thread, though, that these individuals, they've got these reputations for being these smooth operators. They get things done, like Bond and Forger.
Yes, totally.
They may be men of power and influence, like Lord Grantham and Lord Sinclair. But all of them are connected by a common thread that they are confident figures who people naturally defer to whenever they walk in a room. And from these characters, I began to sort of germinate and generate an idea for a VTuber and their persona of this proud, posh, regal, elegant English nobleman who resides in a castle. He has a fairly dark and hidden past in the service of various governments, including His Majesty's government, and possibly even operating as a soldier of fortune, but much of that is classified and unknown to many people. There's even rumors swirling that he may be something more than human.
Whoa.
Perhaps someone who transcends space and time itself. But what we do know is that he is well spoken, he's well traveled, he's a cosmopolitan type, and very erudite. At times he can be a bit stuffy and snobbish, but always kind, compassionate, and generous, and generally has a positive attitude and outlook on life. And in many ways, much like myself, a closeted weeb, a bit flirtatious, always has this sort of playful, cheeky, off the wall, even dry sense of humor. Really, he appeared to be all the things that I was, but also possessed many of the qualities of what I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And thus, Lord Rexworth was born.
I love
Now,
that.
the name itself
Mm-hmm.
has very multifaceted meaning. I've gotten into this before with introduction videos and whatnot.
Yeah.
The name itself, I knew there's always great value in a name. A name is like a brand or a label. This is known going all the way back to biblical times. For instance, with the story of Jacob. You know, Jacob is historically in ancient Hebrew. I believe it is translated into trickster. I believe he tricked his own brother out of his birthright.
Oh.
But then later on, he redeems himself and becomes Israel, which the full translation of what that means escapes me. But I think it's sort of like he who sets free, or he who is reborn.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So I put that sort of level of thought into the name Lord Rexworth. Now, the part of Lord is that's just a title, like you would address someone as Mr., Mrs., Ms., etc.
Yeah.
Rexworth, however, that can be broken up into a few parts. Rex is the Latin word for king, and that dates back to Roman times. That's why you would see, for example, in the royal ciphers of British monarchs, the letter R. Like with the late Queen Elizabeth, for example, you'll see ER in the Roman numeral 2. Well, that's supposed to be shorthand for Elizabeth Rex II.
Oh.
Meaning that that is Queen Elizabeth II. You see it with the modern cipher of Charles III. There's the C, the R, and the Roman numeral 3. Charles Rex III.
That is so
it is
cool.
to indicate, it's to indicate that the reigning monarch is the rightful sovereign over their empire. So I placed the word Rex in my name to echo those sentiments that I read long ago, written by Baltasar Gracian, and that is that everyone should be royal after his own fashion. Let all of your actions, even though they are not those of a king, be in their own sphere worthy of one. Be sublime in your deeds, lofty in your thoughts, and in all of your doings, show that you deserve to be a king, even though you are not one in reality. And then the worth portion is there to indicate that my life has value, just as every life has value. It's a reminder that regardless of what anyone, even we ourselves, may say or think, our lives have value, and we are immeasurably valuable. So how you carry yourself has an influence on how others see you. The thoughts you think toward yourself influence what you attract into your life. And so it's not only a reminder, but a question for other people is, what are the thoughts you think toward yourself, and who or what do you want to be?
I love that.
I wanted my name to be a form of inspiration. Wherever I go, when someone utters the name Lord Rexworth, let it be a point of inspiration for all.
Wow. I have to say, I so appreciate and love the detail you put into all of that, right down to the word Rexworth. I didn't even think the second half of the word, I that went way over my head. I love that so much. How long did that even take you any time? How long did that take you to come up with, even or was it not, you know what I mean?
it was one of those things where when I ultimately made the decision to become a VTuber, I think I must have probably locked myself away in my flat for a weekend just to sort of germinate and dwell on and come up with a lot of these ideas. A lot of it was out of necessity. A lot of it was sort of a last minute deadline because I had to prepare and have something ready for a sort of backdoor debut slash collaboration that I was doing with some people. But some of it, yes, it was, I think, over the course of maybe several weeks, maybe even several months, that I pondered all of this. And from that came all of this.
That is so amazing. Just like I said, just the dedication and detail you put into it is it's so inspiring, honestly. It's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Of course. I'm curious though, obviously there's a lot of work that goes into creating like your design, your lore, your persona. What's kind of the process of you creating your content, like a video or a live stream?
Most of my content is live stream.
Mm.
I tend to think of it much like a sort of long form, soft time, mostly free flowing format of a radio show. I spent about 10 years in radio
Wow.
before moving away from all of that into civil service and into the law. Before I'm not a lawyer, but I am a legal professional.
Cool.
Yes, and so a lot of what I learned in those 10 years in radio uh, transferred over, I think, quite easily to VTubing, to where a lot of it does feel like I'm producing a radio show, only we're adding the elements of a 2D avatar and visuals, which at that point stops being radio and becomes more television than anything. But it sort of starts out that we may begin perhaps the first 30 minutes just chatting with people who are active in chat. There may be some things that I want to talk about, some things I found that were rather interesting. Um, and sometimes we may just get right into it, depending on whether or not I have something that I think is worth speaking about. Go through the usual, what I call the housekeeping items of here's the website, lordrexworth.com. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me here on Twitch. Make sure you're following my YouTube channel because that's where the VODs get uploaded. Make sure that you're just following me across all channels. Occasionally, I may do a more active plug of sponsors, and have those in chat where people can click on one of my affiliate links and go to either purchase a product or sign up or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we get into the main content, which most of the time is video games. Usually, whatever video game I think looks interesting, perhaps one that's become rather popular as of late that I want to give a try. And as I sort of self-deprecatingly say, you get to watch a stuffy Brit stumble and bumble their way through whatever game they're playing.
Oh my God.
As of late, it has become a recurring theme that I play a lot of Yakuza titles.
Oh.
Before that, I was moving through Hitman World of Assassination, which is the blend of the Hitman 1, 2, and 3 remakes. And then before that that was variety and just trying to sort of find myself and what it was that I liked. There are also occasions when I will do a just chatting stream. For instance, yesterday we did a just chatting stream in Video Reacts devoted entirely to the themes of travel and of men's style and watches, which are some things that I'm really passionate about. And so we got to sort of see a first person view of what it is like to travel on a high speed Shinkansen in Japan, from Tokyo Station up to Hakodate in Hokkaido.
Wow.
We also got to see some of the finer details of what tailors look for whenever creating a bespoke suit for a gentleman.
That's so
We
cool.
also we got to travel to far off places in Vietnam and in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, to find some of the most affordable, but still some of the highest quality tailors that you'll find in the world.
Really?
Whereas in the United States, you may pay these days about $750 to $1,000 US for a made-to-measure suit. Over there, that will probably, in Vietnam and even in Malaysia, that will buy you multiple suits and probably even a few custom dress shirts while you're at it. Then there was, let's see, what else did we cover? Um, some of the more notable watches as of late for collectors and for people who are interested in acquiring their first really nice luxury timepiece. We looked at everything from the Tudor Black Bay GMT to the Black Bay 58 to some offerings from Longines that it was. I'm trying to think of what else we looked at. It was a variety. I think a few offerings from Tissot. So several Swatch Group entries there.
Awesome.
So that's sort of an idea of what we do with just chatting streams. Sometimes I will have friends and even my girlfriend Genevieve Yosso join me for sort of a group just chatting, where I'll put on a walking tour video, which gives a first person perspective of some sort of interesting tourist destination.
Oh, cool.
And that will play whilst we're chatting among ourselves about just anything and everything. And it's very nice, organic human conversations that sort of draw people in, and they find rather interesting. And we host a lot of those offline within my own Discord, where it's quite common for me to host a hangout, and I'll put up a walking tour video and also blend in a mixture of like Japanese city pop as we go wandering about the streets of Tokyo or Osaka, and we hear oldies hits from the 1980s in Japan.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
I have done a few ASMR pieces. I've got one in particular that I'm working on, which will also involve the debut of a new VTuber model, a new Live 2D model. One in which I play a villain. It is said people with my accent have a propensity for playing some of the best villains, and having done a bit of community theatre myself in the past, I can tell you that they are very fun roles, and as the old Jaguar ads used to say, it's good to be bad.
I love that so much. So, like, out of the content you kind of gave me examples of, what do you think your favorite is to, like, create for your community?
I really like the just chatting and video react format streams.
Yeah, they sound so cozy.
A close second would probably be ASMR, just because that gives me a lot more creative control and allows me to weave a story in the way I want to. I have previously done some like guided meditation sorts of things on stream in the past. I sort of dropped the format for a while because it didn't seem to resonate with a lot of people. It seems something better suited to a pre-recorded medium like on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I enjoy just chatting streams where it's just me and the audience and video reacts, which is an opportunity for me to show parts and facets of myself, things that interest me, that I think other people will find interesting as well. things that, if nothing else, I hope that they will find it of interest, perhaps a bit inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe so much so that it might provide some sense of elevation in their lives. A way to sort of lift them up. We did video reacts to tailors going into great detail on the finer points of men's suits.
Oh.
I have people in my audience that they have never once in their lives worn a suit. Um, some of them, the because of the global pandemic, they were robbed of the opportunity to even go to their own prom.
Oh, awful.
So they have never been introduced to this sort of thing.
Wow.
And very often, when a man starts out in life as a young lad, those are some of his first moments where he's introduced to these sort of finer things in life.
Mm-hmm.
The first opportunity he's going to have to look at himself in the mirror in either a nicely tailored suit or black tie and tails. And so I'm hoping that people will see the value in that sort of thing. It was one of the things I tried to make the case with, was that, in echoing the words of the late Duke of Windsor, a well tailored suit will take you very far in life. We even watched a video by a gentleman from South Africa who fastidiously wears suits and ties almost everywhere in his daily life, and sometimes even in some of the hottest climates in the world.
Ooh.
That is dedication, I would say. And he gave the reasoning why. He said used to he was quite the casual sort, t-shirts, blue jeans, that sort of thing. And he noticed in his professional life there was no real strict dress code where he was working, but he noticed that people did not really take him seriously or give him the proper respect that he was due. And then one day, he found himself having to get ready and get dressed early for a wedding that he had to attend. And so he ended up having to wear his suit and tie that he was going to wear to the wedding. Later that afternoon, early evening, he wore that to the office to work.
Mm.
And when he was doing his rounds and performing his tasks, he noticed that the same people who would never give him the time of day, or who would be quite disrespectful towards him, suddenly their attitude and their perception of him changed.
Oh.
Same people who were quite dismissive of him all of a sudden wanted him to take a seat in their office and started asking him, "Would you like some coffee or some tea? What can I get you? How can I help you?" I've noticed the same thing in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to wear fairly casual clothes, I would almost appear invisible to a lot of people. But the minute I put a suit and tie on and walk into the room, people start to look at me as the man in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And even some people start to refer to me as boss. I think it's quite incredible. Rightly or wrongly, for many people, perception is reality.
No, that's so true, though. Like, you make your own reality. I'm 100% a believer in that.
Indeed. And so sort of a wisdom from life experience and from the experience of others, I wanted to impart, in particular yesterday, of, these things may seem like luxuries. They may seem like things made of unobtainium.
Mm-hmm.
But really, that is not so. I tell people, it's like, look, you can go the easy, convenient route, go to your nearest shop, go to your nearest department store, and find something off the rack. Or you can turn this into an adventure, into an experience you will never forget.
Mm-hmm.
You can save your money, you can get your passport ready, and you can make an adventure out of this by going to some far-off land like Hoi An, Vietnam, or Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, or even to a tailoring shop within the Daimaru department store in Sapporo, Japan, or even go to, in particular, one I remember, the tailoring shop that is in the Novotel hotel in the Chinese capital of Beijing.
Oh, really?
Yes, they had a tailoring shop. I remember staying at that hotel, and if I recall correctly, yes, they about $500 they can get you a fully bespoke suit, and they can probably have it within a couple of days.
Wow.
The Vietnamese tailors and also tailors in Hong Kong are famous for being able to turn around a suit in as little as 24 hours.
They are so efficient.
Incredibly so. I think Sam's Tailor in Hong Kong still holds the record for that. They had to have suits made, I believe, for then Prince Charles whenever the handover was coming from Britain to China for Hong Kong. He needed some suits and he needed them fast. And Sam's Tailor came in the clutch and was able to provide those suits in about 24 hours for his then Royal Highness.
That's so awesome.
Yes.
And it's so interesting, like, obviously, because I'm a girl, I'd probably never look into, like, tailored suits and stuff, but it's so cool to just, like, have these little tidbits of info for when you want to give people advice, like, when they're traveling. It's so cool.
Yes, and I will say this, that Hoi An Vietnam is not confined to simply clothing for gentlemen. They also create bespoke dresses for the ladies.
Oh.
So, perhaps something to keep in mind for your next holiday.
That is good to know.
But it speaks to another thing of travel, is something which I am incredibly passionate about, which is why I show all of these walking tour videos, these first-person perspectives of travel type videos. I want to sort of give people the experience of what that's like to go through all of that, to have that adventure, so that they will be inspired to have it for themselves. I believe rather firmly in that old quotation by Mark Twain about travel, and I'll have to pull it up here. I want to make sure I'm getting this exactly right. He said that travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one corner of the earth all one's lifetime. I was guilty of doing that for quite a long time, and it was actually my graduate studies, working on my master's degree. I had an opportunity to travel to China for a study of international finance and business. And for me, it was almost like jumping into the deep end of the pool after being sort of isolated in one little corner of the world for so long that I caught the bug. I caught the travel bug, and I said to myself, I need more of this, and I need it more often. And if I can keep doing this perpetually for the rest of my life, I will be most satisfied.
Wow.
And it's been that way ever since. I have some of the fondest memories and some of the best stories of my life come from my travels around the world. The experiences that I have, everything from the little details to the conversations that I had with people, to just these brief little moments. That to me is what makes it all worth it. Not all of the shopping, not the duty-free stuff, not the, let's go to this particular shop or boutique here and buy this certain thing. Although I do have a few trinkets from my travels, which they tell a story, and they tell quite a wonderful story. But it's not, for me, travel is not just moving my way through the international airports of the world to do duty-free shopping
Yeah.
and find the best deal on merchandise or things that that will rust and fall apart or get eaten by moths or whatever.
Yeah.
It is the experiences.
Totally.
Those are the things that they they warm my heart, and they also keep me going, keep me inspired. And also at the end of the day, they also make for excellent content because my audience loves to hear these stories, and I love telling them.
I love that. I feel like that is like, I don't know, maybe I don't know that many people, but I feel like I haven't met someone who is like a very duty free shopper type person. You know what I mean? Like whenever I'm trying to get some sort of souvenir, I'm always trying to go to where like locals are recommending me. Like when I travel, I
Yeah,
love speaking to the locals, and I feel like that is such an important part of traveling.
absolutely. No,
Mm-hmm.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Mm,
It's those off the beaten path
yeah,
type
exactly.
experiences that become the most memorable.
Exactly. Okay, we're spinning it back into VTube. What
All
has
right.
been the most challenging aspect of being a VTuber, and how do you handle like the negativity or criticism in the space?
Um, Probably the most challenging aspect of being a VTuber is, I think, in the beginning, there's a learning curve to all of this. I'd
Mm.
been out of I'd been out of radio broadcasting for quite some time, and so to really do all of this right necessitated the building of a proper streamer setup, which in many ways is almost like building a small-scale radio or television station.
Yeah,
Certainly
seriously.
a lot less moving parts, but challenging nevertheless.
Hmm.
Um, Consistency in scheduling can be a
Mm,
challenge for some people. I'm fortunate that I have had office jobs for many, many years.
yeah.
There's always a set schedule that I adhere to. With that, and also I try to adhere to a set schedule with my streaming. So Sunday nights, I devote myself to putting together a stream schedule for the week. That's usually the time when I will start to finalize any sort of collabs,
Hmm.
um, and then put the schedule out there for everyone to see. That way they know when to tune into my streams. Another thing that is a challenging aspect of being a VTuber is editing.
Oh.
It's one thing to actually go out and do the performance as a VTuber on a stream.
Hmm.
If you have nobody who can do this stuff for you, it's oftentimes up to you to go through hours of content and find clips and highlights and
Oh.
things, memorable moments from each stream.
Yeah.
I should love to have a full time editor. It would make my workflow so much easier. But that sort of thing has to come much later in one's career as a VTuber. So it's very often up to me to go and find clips. And from those clips, we put those out on social media, on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok, with the hope and the prayer that people will find you and subscribe and to help you grow as a streamer with follow count, etc.
Hmm.
So that sort of consistency can be hard, but
Yeah.
as they say in physics, a body in motion tends to stay in motion, body at rest tends to stay at rest. As
Exactly.
long as you have that inertia going, you should be fine. But the minute you stop, it's like trying to push a heavy boulder up the hill.
It's
It can
true.
be quite hard to get going at first.
It's so true.
As far as criticism or negative feedback goes, I welcome constructive criticism.
Has anyone ever been mean to you, like in chat, and you're just like, whoa, where did that come from?
Oh God, yes.
Oh,
It's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when.
oh God.
But, but
Jesus.
I tend to take a very dim view and have very little tolerance for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so I don't hesitate to either time out certain people or even just boot them from chat and ban them altogether.
As you should.
And I have a fairly hard and fast rule that you sort of get one shot with this,
Yeah.
and if you blow it, that's it for you. You've had it.
Ooh.
You're not coming back in. I don't do like other streamers where I sort of go through these sort of digital clemency proceedings where I decide, well, I believe we shall grant you mercy and allow you back in, etc., etc. No.
Heck no.
Once the ban hammer falls, it has fallen. The bell has tolled, and it has tolled for thee, and that's the end of it. And so I don't really go into that sort of thing. I have a lot of safeguards in place, so that instances like this are quite few and far between. I've got Seribot. I make quite regular use of Commander Root. All of these programs to catch bot accounts. If people want to follow me or participate in my chat, their account has to be verified. There has to be a telephone number of some kind linked to their account. They have to jump through some hoops before they can participate in the dialogue on my streams. And I have found that if I don't do that sort of thing, then all of a sudden you start seeing people coming into chat talking about how they're GFX artists and they want to sell me their AI generated rip-off wares.
Oh, Lord.
or you can get multiple viewers here for a low price at this particular link, blah blah blah. Putting all of those safeguards in place and also having a bit of a cooldown in chat for each person to be able to say something.
Mm-hmm.
I have found it helps to keep the dialogue elevated, civilized, and free of spam or bot accounts. And those who are, I've also got auto mod enabled. There are some people where they mean well, and they're not being malicious or anything like that, but I have had some people in chat that they had a fairly foul mouth about them.
Oh my God.
And it showed in their typing. And they just, after a while, they started to become frustrated, visibly so, over the fact of Automod kept catching them. And I finally just said, well, maybe if you just clean up your language and speak in a more elegant and civilized manner, you would find this would not happen to you. I am all for free expression. I am a firm believer in a sort of universal human right to freedom of speech.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when it comes to my streams, when it comes to participation in my chat, I would prefer to keep the dialogue as elevated and lacking in coarseness as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I keep a lot of those particular safeguards in place. So with all of that, with that sort of foundation laid out, and then just putting the general rules of follow the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated, and also implementing the Will Wheaton rule of don't be a dick. I found that there's very little need to have some sort of heavy hand in moderation, and my mods are able to sort of take a breather and just enjoy the stream like everyone else.
That's awesome.
Yes, the few times that people have said some fairly hateful or rude things towards other people, I have zero compunction about banning them and just letting them know they're not welcome here. If there are some people that it's rare that I have a falling out with anyone within this space, but those other people, it has been made quite clear that they're not welcome in my streams, and they've also been banned from chat, and I don't even think they can see when I go online.
Oh my goodness.
It's nothing I make publicly any sort of public announcement about. It's nothing that I shout from the rooftops. It's just sort of a quiet understanding, and thankfully those people that are for whom that particular bell tolls, those are also few and far between, because in the end, I am someone who prefers to get along with as many people as possible, but I also place a heavy value upon mutual respect.
I agree. Totally. It's important.
And so if that is not there, and if a certain professionalism is lacking, at least on one side, then I just choose to quietly disassociate myself from whoever that may be.
Smart. It's very smart.
Mm.
What would you say has been your most rewarding interaction with a fan or your community?
I would say that some of my most rewarding interactions would be having individuals in my community, and not necessarily on stream, though it has happened on stream. But off stream, I've had some people into my community and come into community events where we've got a voice chat going with multiple people gathering and just enjoying each other's company. These are people who, for whatever reason, have been quite shy, reserved, very introverted, not really feeling comfortable enough to express themselves. And suddenly they find themselves in my presence, where I sort of have to be an extrovert. I have to be expressive. I have this certain image that I am portraying, and also fully adopting and assuming as my own. And that stays with me both on stream and off stream. Because I'm not really one to put up a lot of fronts. I like to be the sort of person of what you see is what you get.
Me too.
And it's just a matter of spending time with them, talking with them, listening to them, and getting them to open up. And what I found is that slowly but surely, some of these people have wandered into my community. Well, I suppose the welcoming atmosphere that I and others have tried to create has rubbed off on them, and they feel like they can open up again.
That's awesome.
And whatever scars of the past they've had have started to heal. And we've had some people in my community that have gone on to either resume streaming activities and have new VTuber models made for themselves and resume their whole VTubing journey, or they have become inspired enough that they give it a try for themselves. And they find that they love it. And so they go on to their own measure of success.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yes. And then there's just things as simple as having a conversation with someone in chat on stream, talking with them. It could be something as simple as just a conversation while I'm playing a video game. And for whatever reason, I should like to think it's something that's more providential than anything. Perhaps I was just in the right place at the right time to where someone felt safe using the anonymity of the internet to sort of open up and not necessarily trauma dump, but they were going through something.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps they just needed someone to listen. I don't always have advice for every situation. And quite often I'll admit, look, I have no idea what you're going through. I've never experienced anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, I can usually say with confidence that things do get better. I'm probably a living testimony to that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I had what my therapist calls the gut punch from hell late last year, where I not only lost my job, I also lost the place I was living in. I had to move back in with my parents.
Mm-hmm.
But I also had a spouse walk out on me.
Oh my God.
In a very heartbreaking betrayal.
Yeah.
I was a mess for quite some time, and there was about a month that I did not stream at all.
Wow.
But then I got back on it. I started to put my life back together. I will say quite humbly, I am still putting my life back together,
Mm-hmm.
and still trying to piece back the elements of my mental health, which were shattered by all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But things do genuinely get better.
Always. Nothing lasts, like good or bad. I always remind myself that.
Indeed. And that's one of the things that I do try to tell people is like, look, as bad as whatever it is you're going through right now, to keep some perspective, it could be a whole lot worse.
Mm-hmm.
So let's try to find the silver lining here in whatever's going on. But also know this: weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Exactly.
This season of sadness and heartbreak, or of illness, or brokenness, or whatever it is that you're going through, is not going to last forever. It's not meant to be the valley that you settle in.
Exactly.
You are meant to climb that mountain and reach the top. You are meant to reach the summit. And so I tell them that, as cliched as it sounds, things will get better.
Exactly. I love that. You just gotta like keep going. It's like life doesn't stop for anyone, you know?
Yes. There was, I think, in Proverbs, King James translation says, "If thou faintest in the time of adversity, thy strength is small." The paraphrased version from the Message translation says, "If you fall to pieces in a crisis, there wasn't much to you in the first place."
I mean, kind of makes me feel better. I love that though. I love that you can foster such a space and make people feel so comfortable to do that when they may not necessarily know you, you know? I love that. I appreciate that.
I never really intended to be a sort of comfy streamer, as they're called. I sort of maybe lucked into the part a bit, but maybe the foundation, I think, was always there.
Yeah.
I am certainly not chaotic by any means. I don't have gremlin energy, although I can be a bit mischievous
Yeah.
in my own right sometimes. But yeah, it's the whole place is sort of a safe spot, and I oftentimes speculate that in those moments of quiet, when chat is not quite active as they should be, I've wondered if perhaps I have relaxed and lulled them off to sleep.
Oh
Not in
my
a bad
God.
way, of course.
No. No, no, no. I'm sure you don't. Ooh. How do you approach collaborations, and what do you look for in a potential collaborator? I love this question.
Um, Collaborations, my approach is quite simple. I just ask for it.
How do you stake them out?
Most of the time, the contact is either through Twitter direct messages, sometimes rather public messages. But most of the time, planning for collaborations comes through here, through Discord. It I just reach out to them, either in their own communities or direct messaging them to ask them, hey, I'd be interested in a collab if you would, and just let me know a time that works for you, what you'd like to, what sort of thing interests you.
Mm-hmm.
I have certain general ideas that I come in
Yeah.
thinking, well, this might be fun for us to do together. But I stay open and flexible, and oftentimes I'm quite enthusiastic about taking on the suggestions of others,
Mm-hmm.
because I love being introduced to new games, to new challenges, to just new ideas. Um, so it's mainly just a simple task of just asking.
Yeah.
Ask and it shall be given you. Seek and ye shall find. Knock
It's
and the
so
door shall be
true.
opened unto thee. As far as what I'd look for in a potential collaborator, well, chemistry first and foremost. I mean, we've got to get along. There are some people that I have collaborated with, and for whatever reason, we just weren't meshing. We gave it the old college try, but lots of awkward silence.
Oh.
I think that most streamers and VTubers will find this in the beginning, that there are going to be some people that you think, oh yeah, they're cool, we'll get along just fine, and you both get on stream together and you're both stiff as a board because you're nervous around each other, or maybe just something personality wise just not clicking.
Oh no.
Now I try as best I can to break the ice, tapping into sort of radio journalism background, and ask the basic questions of, hey, tell us about yourself. What do you like to do in your spare time? It's like, well, obviously your VTuber avatar looks like an anime girl or an anime boy. What sort of anime do you like? What are you watching these days? Just simple softball things, the sort of things that you'd find on Extra Entertainment Tonight or something like that. Nothing groundbreaking of, well, what are your thoughts on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict these days? Or what are your thoughts? Who do you think is going to win in the July 4th election in the UK? Is it going to be Sunak or is it going to be Starmer? Who do you think?
No.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. It's just more, hey, we're just two people or three or four people. Let's just all get to know each other. Let's just all have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's and that's really all it is. Just looking for chemistry, and also just trying as best you can to nurture that relationship in the follow up afterwards. I will say I'm probably one of the worst people when it comes to that sort of thing, just because I do get fairly busy with my day job and with other things going on, and devote a lot of time to just the jokingly call it the proper care and feeding of my significant other. Um, so I'm probably, eh, and that's really a poor excuse in keeping perspective about that sort of thing, because it costs me nothing. It takes very little time to just say a quick hello in Discord over DMs, and I will readily admit that I'm quite bad at that sort of thing. The follow up is something I still struggle to improve upon. And very often people have to reach out to me for collabs. But I try. I try. It's something to work on, and something to make incremental improvements upon as time goes on.
And what are your long-term goals for your VTuber career?
Long-term goals. Eventually, I should like to have merchandising of my own.
Yes.
I'm told that many of my female and even some of my male fans are quite interested in the idea of having their favorite sexy anime husbando in the form of a body pillow.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my god, how does that feel?
It's all right, I guess. There's that. I've thought of perhaps maybe something a bit more upscale in the form of a pedal. So perhaps something like a nice polo shirt, or maybe a dress shirt or something like that. If I were to do any sort of a pedal, it would probably have a decidedly New England or Oxbridge prep look.
Love it.
And maybe even have a very heavy emphasis on sort of the old money aesthetic. If you know what that means.
Love it. Yeah, it's just clean. It's like clean cut. It's tailored really well. Like I love the cuts of fabric. Obsessed. Like Ralph Lauren, the 90s, obsessed.
Yes.
So
yes.
fun.
So that, yeah, and it's one of those things where other merch may fall apart or go out of style or get donated to Goodwill or whatever. I should like to think that something like this is you buy it once and you buy it for life.
Exactly.
That's one of the big things, is that yes, I'm a believer in paying for quality, but I also believe in getting the maximum value for my money. And I also don't want to keep buying the same thing over and over again because it keeps falling apart. So I should like for it to be good quality. Being a watch collector and watch enthusiast, I should like to have some sort of limited edition wristwatch made. As far as what movement it would be, and I would be quite happy with a fairly accurate quartz movement. I'm not a snob who looks down my nose at quartz watches. Some of the finest watches I own are quartz watches. I've got a Grand Seiko that I wore to my graduation ceremony, which is just as lovely and probably a hell of a lot more accurate than any Rolex on the market.
Yeah.
I possibly, if there's an option to do some sort of mechanical self-winding movement, I'll consider that. As far as what that would look like, I don't know. There could be the option to do multiple ones: a simple dress watch, maybe a sports or a diver's watch, maybe a field watch, a chronograph.
That'd be awesome.
Maybe perhaps even a GMT complication added to the watch. I'm quite fond of GMT watches, and I've got at least one from Christopher Ward that's made in the same design style and aesthetic as the Rolex GMT Explorer Mark II. It's also sort of a way that I stay connected to Genevieve, because I've got the GMT hand set to the time in London.
Stop.
So
oh my god.
no matter where I go, if I'm wearing this watch, it's not only a British designed watch, but it's also got the time in the UK, and so I know exactly what time it is, and when she might be sitting down to dinner, or when I need to see her off to bed.
I love that. That's so sweet. You guys are so cute. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Like that's so cute. Oh my
Yes. So
goodness.
merchandising is definitely a long term goal. Uh, Twitch partner plus even. Um,
Ah.
should love to make this a full time profession.
Do you think that like that's realistic for you?
I think with enough investment in advertising, marketing, um, and adding more members to my team, like a proper full time manager,
Mm-hmm.
a full time editor, um, perhaps even a community manager.
And you're not
I
with
do think it's
a
possible.
agent right now. Like not an agent, but oh my god. Like a
An agency.
yeah, yeah. Like are you independent right now?
Yes, technically I am. I mean, I am affiliated with Sway,
Yeah.
but that's more of an esports organization.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not paid by them.
Yeah.
I stream for them once a week,
Nice.
and it's more to just sort of help them in terms of marketing.
Yeah, like brand recognition.
Um, yes, and but I'm not really tied down by any formal contract with them. I'm free to become a completely and totally free agent anytime I like.
Do you
Um,
think
and as long as there's not any sort of conflict, like I can't very well go and join another esports organization
yeah.
and expect to remain on with Sway. If I were to join a VTuber agency, definitely we would need to have some sort of conversation about that. But I've been a part of a VTuber organization before that's informal, and there was never any issue with me also being a part of Sway. Same with Genevieve. Um, but in the future, I think I mean it is quite possible to become to stay an independent and to have a a team around you like that. We see it with other streamers, other VTubers actually, Fillion, Chai Lily,
Yeah, so true.
Kirsha Verstal, um, and there's many independents out there that build their own teams, and um, they go on to enjoy their very impressive success in their own right. Some of them do end up getting recruited by talent agencies. Like Fillion, for example, I believe is represented by Mythic Talent. So there is that. We've also got VTubers that are part of agencies like Iron Mouse and Zentreya, but they are also represented by uh, United Talent.
Oh.
So the possibilities are quite endless, and I think the sky is the limit. And I think that there are multiple agencies out there that would be interested in having me as part of their repertoire and as part of their team. But then again, I'm perfectly content to go out and build my own team and do things entirely my way. I should be happy either way. I'm focusing on the end goal in mind, and I'm not worried too much about the details or the dreaded hows of it all.
That's a good way to look at it.
Mm.
In general, where do you see the VTuber industry heading within the next like 3 to 5 years?
The next 3 to 5 years becoming even more mainstream than it already is. We're starting to see the rumblings of that now. With, I mean, in Japanese society, you see VTubers promoted alongside anime and television shows, movies. They're everywhere. The merchandise is everywhere. You go to a line of capsule toy machines or gachapon machines somewhere, and you'll find everything from Kamen Rider and Shonen Jump capsule toys to Hololive and Nijisanji capsule toys right next to it. It's become its own unique subset, and I think over the years you'll probably start to see a lot more talents emerging, making their way into the mainstream of society, and that's sort of becoming one of the primary forms of entertainment. I think that streams will begin to become much more structured, um, resembling something a bit more like a television show of old, um, with sponsors and set commercial breaks and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, just as we've seen with Japanese Hololive members making an appearance on the jumbotron
the
at
baseball game.
with Japanese baseball.
Yeah.
We've already seen Niji Sanji trying to make inroads with the NBA in America.
I saw that.
It would not surprise me if similar inroads are made with other forms of sport, everything from Formula One and World Rally Championship to rugby football, even football clubs and associations. You know, I mean the idea of perhaps some sort of paid sponsorship deal with either an independent VTuber, an individual VTuber, or a VTuber agency with something like Manchester United or Liverpool. I don't think that is. I don't think that is quite far fetched as some might think.
No, I don't think it's far fetched
and we
at
may end
all.
up seeing that within the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, no.
I should even love to be a part of something like that. Whether it's me receiving the endorsement or perhaps even brokering some of these particular deals.
Yeah, exactly.
So I should love that.
I'm excited to see it. How do you balance your VTuber activities with your personal life?
I consider them sort of largely one and the same. My VTubing activities take place within my off hours away from work, so a lot of that is indistinguishable. My VTube activities are my personal life, but at the same time, there are a lot of elements of my personal life that people do not know. For instance, I shall likely never reveal my real name. It would take a lot and a tremendous amount of time before I would even consider the idea of doing a very public face reveal.
Ooh. Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yes. Privacy is something that has an incredibly high premium placed upon it by VTubers.
Totally.
For a lot of us, I have many good friends who are VTubers. We don't know each other's real names. Most of them, I do not know where they live. And it may end up being that way forever, just in terms of privacy. I mean, the day may come when we all trust each other enough to reveal that information to us. But, in large part, a lot of elements of my personal life stay personal and stay private and hidden. My real name, where exactly I live, who I work for during the day, how much I make in a year. Personal details like that. Or members of my family. You can almost think of it as a superhero having to guard their secret identity.
That's exactly what I was thinking about, actually.
Yes, because if they know who you are, it doesn't take them very long to figure out who you're related to, who your family is, where you work, and certain nefarious actors can perhaps use that information against you.
Yeah, people are crazy.
To dox you or to steal your identity.
This kind of circles back to like one of my first ones, but what advice would you give to someone who's interested in becoming a VTuber?
Spend some time in deep reflection as to whether or not you want to do this and whether or not you want to do this seriously. If you're just having fun, if you're content to have this as just a part-time thing that you do for fun in your off hours or on the weekends, that's one thing. If, on the other hand, you're trying to have a serious go at this, possibly make this into your full-time profession, make sure that this is the right choice for you. For some people, try as they might, they may not be cut out for show business, and that's what this is, ultimately, is another form of show business.
Yeah.
I have been around show business and hospitality for many, many years.
Yeah.
So it's safe to say that it is in my blood. And I know how to probably for lack of a better term, I know how to put on a good performance. I know how to put on a show for people. I have a general idea of what people find entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And I do my best to provide that. Some people have that gift, some people do not.
That's so true.
Now, you may be able to find some sort of interesting niche for yourself. But you need to have a very serious, long conversation with yourself of, do you really want this?
Yeah.
Because it can potentially change your life. It can, if it takes off, it can fundamentally alter your life forever.
So true.
And that can have both good and bad points to it. I should know because I've lived through some of them already.
Yeah. Oh my god.
So find out if this is what you really want to do. Start small. Be prepared to languish with 0 or 1 viewers in the beginning for a long time. I tell people about that. It's like you have to get really good at 2 things. 1, get really good with having one-sided conversations with yourself. And number 2, get really comfortable with the idea of saying anything and everything that pops into your head.
Oh my gosh.
For a lot of people, that is very difficult in the beginning because they are still overly concerned with what others think of them.
So sad.
The minute you learn to put that aside is when you start to gain strength and drop filters.
Totally.
I've heard it said one time, it's a great saying, the pursuit of being liked can be the greatest prison you ever put yourself into.
That is
because you will be afraid to be who you really are.
Yes. Exactly.
So bring your best self forward, or the best elements of yourself forward.
That's all that matters. That's all you can do.
Become the part. Yes, become the part. Take it on as your own, because this is going to be an identity you are taking on for yourself, and you'd better like it.
Yeah.
But yes, also be prepared for the possibility that it may consume most of your off hours in your personal life. So you'd better have a passion for all of this.
Yeah.
If not, then maybe this is not the right path for you. But if it is, it could change your life.
What kind of characteristics would you say? I don't want to say like necessarily make a good VTuber because it would be subjective, but like I guess a good entertainer in that space or that community.
That is a very good question.
Well, because I don't, as you were speaking, I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I wonder what viewers, like avid VTuber fans, look for. Because obviously, I've watched a few VTubers, and like, there's a handful of them that I know, but I'm never actively looking, like, when people go on Twitch and look for streamers. So I'm always wondering, like, what would make someone click on it? Like, what do people look for in a VTuber?
Well, with VTubers especially, it's aesthetics.
Is it?
I think that's part of the. I think that's part of the. It's a factor, at least.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, well, I hate to turn the tables on you, but I mean, it's helpful to gain insight. Why do you? Have you ever asked yourself why do you click on a particular person's streams, whether it's a VTuber or a flesh tuber or whoever?
I think I don't know. I'm kind of weird about it because I'm depends on what I'm looking for. Like I love video essays. So those are like the videos that I'm looking on YouTube for like a video essay. So like I don't know. Like of course I like aesthetic like when I think of aesthetics, I feel like all I'm looking for is like a good camera, good clear camera, someone I can like tolerate their voice. I don't know, but kind of like piggybacking off of what you said, I've seen this discourse, sorry, on Twitter a lot. A lot with women, at least. I think there were some people complaining about like VTubers versus LewdTubers and how LewdTubers get more views because they show more skin or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. Like I've never really had that type of mindset.
Well, perhaps because you don't quite fit into the demographic that people look for that sort of thing.
But like, I don't know.
I mean, sex sells. There's no denying that.
Yeah, of course. But
why do we think that either women who appear on camera in fairly suggestive clothing, perhaps showing some cleavage, why do they do that? Because they know it's going to get people's attention.
Yeah.
Particularly eager young lads and doers and cads who will offer them food and wine, as the old song goes from Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And we got our last question. What are some of your hobbies or interests you have outside of VTubing? Are you more of like are you a nature person? Do you like to go on hikes? Do you like to go camping? Or do you just tend to like play video games, stay inside? Do you like shopping? What is it?
I got all of the outdoorsy stuff out of my system when I was in Scouts as a lad.
Oh,
these days, my idea of roughing it is being in a hotel with no telephone number to call for room service.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. My hobbies and interests, I've sort of touched on a lot of these already. I enjoy playing video games. I love watching movies and television shows, especially old movies and old television shows. A lot of the modern tripe from the West is just exactly that. It's tripe and it's absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
Though occasionally, something on the BBC or ITV will poke through that's of interest to me, but the rest of the time it's mostly foreign language programming, things on Crunchyroll or
totally.
And maybe something on Netflix. I've actually been. It may sound a bit odd, but since I've what has been taken off as of late in the gaming world has been the gacha games. Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Nikke, Goddess of Victory, and Wuthering Waves, all of them created by studios in China.
Really?
And so I have been. Oh yes, they have the aesthetic of Japanese anime.
Wow.
Well, these are firmly created by Chinese studios, and so I have been actively searching out, and well, maybe not actively, but sort of passively searching at least, to find programming that is from China, that is available for export, and is at least localized with English subtitles that I can watch. So I should like to see what other sort of content that they're putting out these days. To sort of maybe get my finger on the pulse of what what is defined as popular entertainment in the People's Republic, or perhaps in neighboring Taiwan. And while I'm at it, I may even get into K dramas or Korean dramas, just to see what all the fuss is about there. Just more out of curiosity than anything. This sort of curiosity comes with having been in broadcasting for as long as I was. So you start to look at different things more from an academic standpoint, to find out what works and what doesn't work. But I've also been taking courses through Coursera to learn more about digital marketing, because I feel the need to add more skills to my resume, and so that. But I primarily have got a passion for anime. Love like old monster movies. I grew up loving Godzilla. The latest film that won an Oscar, Godzilla -1. Just chef's kiss level of excellence on that one. I think it took them close to 70 years, but they finally hit on, I think, the perfect Godzilla film.
You think? Really?
And oh yes, I really do. For so long, they tried their hardest, and it was always more of a showcase of special effects. This was one of those rare instances where the storyline really helped to sell the film, and really hit a lot of emotional chords with a lot of people.
Really?
In ways, yes, and in ways not seen since the original 1954 film.
Yeah.
The 1954 film was a warning about the dangers of nuclear testing, the sort of unholy monstrosities that could be unleashed from all of that.
Are you serious?
Oh, yes.
I did not know that.
That was... Yeah, no, the idea of Godzilla was he's just a walking atom bomb.
Stop. Oh my god.
Yeah.
What?
That's exactly what he was designed to do. They touched on that a little bit in the 1995 film Godzilla vs. Destroyer, of what if this walking, living, breathing nuclear reactor all of a sudden malfunctions? What happens then? And that was the whole premise of how do we deal with that, and how do we stop him from melting down, or at least do a controlled meltdown, without turning all of Japan and the entire world into a nuclear wasteland. The 1984 film was envisioned as, what if we forgot all of the events of the Showa era films, save for 1954, brought Godzilla back and treated it like a disaster movie, where if things go horribly awry, and if we don't deal with this properly, we may unleash nuclear Armageddon between the NATO powers and the Soviet Union. So it's when they start dealing with a lot of those serious real world implications and treating them in these very solemn ways that I think they really start to make some of the best Godzilla films. With Godzilla -1, it was how do we set up a possible prequel to the original Godzilla, and what if we were to set this in occupied Japan post World War II, and also touching on some things that for generations you just really did not talk about in the films, in polite society, or anything like that, of what if we had the main character, what if they were a kamikaze pilot, and talking about all of the emotional and mental anguish that went with being someone who was supposed to sacrifice their lives for a cause that even they knew they could not win.
Yeah. Wow.
So have you seen Godzilla -1?
I don't know which one it was I saw. Like I've only seen one of them, and I couldn't tell you which one. But I have a feeling
Okay.
it might be the crazy special effects one. Like I feel like it was that one.
Well, the special effects are not as crazy as you might think. They're actually done on a bit of a shoestring budget by comparison. They, I think Godzilla minus one was made for about approximately $15 million, so that's what they had for the special effects budget. Yeah, which is a fraction of what they sometimes spend hundreds of millions of dollars on special effects in Hollywood, and yet they grossed multiple times that amount at the box office. They're making money off of the streaming sales and the rentals. They are, and they also won an Oscar for best special effects, which just really goes to show you they were onto something, and they sort of prove that you don't have to spend a fortune in order to win an Oscar. So yeah, I would suggest, if you haven't already, look up Godzilla minus one on Amazon and give it a watch. It's a really, really good film, and possibly even wait for Godzilla minus one minus color. It's something to it.
Like in the aesthetic sense, or the sense
it adds a certain, I guess, an emotional depth. Of just there's something more that is added with a subtracting of color. I think so.
No,
we've seen it with everything from old Hollywood films to even Schindler's List, which was intentionally done with at most selective color in some spots, but for the most part it was a black and white film.
Well, I know in photography, photographers, when they want to evoke certain emotions, they do use black and white ink, because when you use black and white ink, it, like, your brain, it won't, like, it's not thinking about all the color it has to process, so it's only focusing on what's actually going on in the frame, and I'm like, that's so cool.
Yes, I think I believe the same philosophy was applied with turning Godzilla minus one into a black and white film.
That's awesome.
And not only that, it also fits with the, sort of forming a trilogy of films of sorts, with the first two Godzilla films from 1954 and 1955, which were both shot in black and white.
Oh. I didn't realize that this was a 2023 thing. I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so out of the loop.
Yes, they have been. There are 3 different cities of Godzilla films that have been in circulation. You had the Showa era, named after the Showa emperor, that ran from 1954 to about 1975. There's about 15 films. They're all available on Blu-ray through the Criterion Collection now. And some of them you can even stream over on Shout Factory TV for free. Then there was the Heisei era, named after the recently abdicated emperor, which ran from 1984 until 1995. It was about 7 films. They were sort of, in a way, they were sort of getting the band back together from the Showa era, the few people that were left. So it was the original executive producer of the films. For most of the films, it was the original composer of the music for the films, and many of the special effects artists are people who trained under the special effects supervisor and director of most of the original films, Eiji Tsuburaya, who we also know as the man who gave us Ultraman on Japanese television. Yes, that was an Eiji Tsuburaya production, along with all of the other sequel series that came along after that.
What a legend!
Mm-hmm. He was a master at detail in model work and being able to produce convincing special effects on a very limited budget. So much so that the few propaganda films that he was making for the Empire of Japan, the Allied forces thought they were the real thing.
What?
And so they actually interrogated him at one point and said, "How the hell did you get that shot? How did you know we were going to be there? And where were you filming? And from what location? Give us the latitude and longitude of where your camera was located and everything." And he said, quite simply, "Gentlemen, these are models.
Wow.
These are model ships that we had in a backlot at Toho Studios, where we filled up a pool of water and set up a partly cloudy background, and we shot everything at high speed.
Oh my god.
This is not real. What you're seeing is models and special effects." They were blown away by that.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That is so cool. That's so insane. I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, and he did all of this because originally Subaraya wanted to replicate the stop-motion animation that he was so inspired by in the Willis O'Brien film, the original King Kong. And he wanted to do that for Godzilla. But then they did a cost analysis of how much that would cost. It's like, I think they came back and said, it's going to be several $1 million.
Ooh.
We don't have several $1 million. Okay, how long will it take? Well, it's going to take about 3, 4, maybe 5 years to complete. We don't have 3, 4, 5 years. We've got probably 6 months to make this film and get it into theaters. So ultimately, he went with the idea of model ships, model airplanes, model buildings, and a man in a suit made out of rubber and stuffed with foam and bamboo for weight, and filming it all at high speed to give it a sense of proportion and make it seem like it was actually a giant, lumbering, mutated dinosaur
Oh my god.
leaving a trail of destruction in Tokyo.
Oh my god, what a genius.
Mm.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you so much for sharing that with me, and thank you so much for allowing me to interview you.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Lord Rexworth podcast. I hope these discussions have ignited your curiosity, sparked inspiration, or provided a moment of relaxation. To stay connected with the podcast and access additional content, be sure to visit my website, lordrexworth.com, and follow me across all platforms there. That's lordrexworth.com. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. Your support fuels our journey to continue bringing you engaging conversations and soothing ASMR experiences. As we conclude today's episode, remember, your mind and spirit are powerful forces, and we encourage you to embrace the positive energy you've gained here. Until next time, take a moment for yourself, stay inspired, and continue exploring the boundless possibilities that life has to offer. Visit lordrexworth.com and be a part of our growing community. Thank you for being with us on the Lord Rexworth podcast.